12:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is War Notes, hosted by moi, Paviel G, delivering real-time breaking alerts across America in one uninterrupted old-school feed. Now, War Notes every day is your nonstop source for breaking news from Washington Halls to Main Street. No breaks, no fluff, just what you need to know right now. The Trump administration has tied $1.9 billion in FEMA disaster preparedness grants to states certifying they will not boycott Israeli companies. Any state cutting, quote, commercial relations, specifically with Israeli firms, end quote, will lose critical funding for search and rescue gear and emergency response infrastructure. In international trade news, the European Union has agreed to suspend retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods for 6 months following an agreement with President Trump. The suspension applies to proposed duties on steel, aluminum, autos, and parts, which were due to take effect August 7th. U.S. stock markets showed signs of rebound this morning. Dow futures rose 1.06%, S&P up 1.20%, and the Nasdaq climbed 1.58%, fueled by expectations of imminent rate cuts from the Fed after weak payroll data. Economists now estimate an 85 to 90% chance of Federal Reserve rate cuts starting in September, possibly totaling 65 to 100 basis points by year end after a sharply lower than expected July jobs report and revisions, cutting 258,000 payrolls from May and June figures. The firing of Labor Statistics Commissioner Erica McEntrefer by Trump drew sharp criticism from economists and business leaders who warned it may damage confidence in U.S. economic data. Critics urged Congress to investigate the move, citing fears of politicizing statistical integrity. In manufacturing, U.S. factory orders plunged 4.8% in June, with aircraft orders sharply down, reversing May's gains. This signals weakness in industrial output amid rising tariffs and supply chain bottlenecks. Lastly, a new visa pilot program announced today gives U.S. consular officers discretion to require bonds of $5,000 to $15,000 for visitors from countries with high overstay rates. The pilot begins August 20th and targets travelers from nations including Chad, Eritrea, Haiti, and Yemen. Now, for my listeners who are just joining in, the key impacts for Americans and what I want you to take away from today's broadcast is that A, political decisions are now tied to domestic disaster funding, becoming leverage in international posture. B, market volatility persists, but early signals lean toward interest rates relief in coming months. C, trust in federal economic data is under question for everyday Americans tracking job prospects and inflation. D, industrial weakness, especially in aerospace, may presage broader economic strain. And the last thing is that incoming visa bonds may deter travel to the U.S., with implications for tourism and diplomatic relationships. Now that concludes this urgent War Notes broadcast. Plain facts, sharp reporting, no interruptions from anyone, even trolls. And I am Pavi. Still, your mind alert, and subscribe to stay informed with every crisis update. Thank you so much for listening.